Remembering the late Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Just 19 months after his death, his book, Scalia Speaks, Reflections on Law, Faith, and Life Well Lived, is hitting store shelves nationwide. The book includes dozens of Scalia's best speeches, most of which have never been published. Joining me right now is his son, Christopher Scalia. Christopher, it's good to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Maria.
So you wrote the introduction for this book and were also a co-editor. Describe your experience working on this book.
It was a lot of fun. I got to read a lot of speeches my father wrote, hundreds of speeches, really, that I had never read before, some of which I had read. But it was just a great experience getting to hear his voice again, getting to hear his humor, experience his insights again. It was a very moving experience, and I'm really honored to have been a part of it, to be able to bring his ideas to so many people.
And the book includes a foreword by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. How would you describe her professional relationship with your father?
Well, obviously, they didn't share many opinions politically or legally, but they were very good friends outside of the courtroom, and they worked well together in the court itself. They would help each other out with drafts of their opinions. They would point out ways they could make their arguments better. Even if they disagreed with the arguments, they were there as colleagues and as friends to make each other better at what they did. And socially, they really liked spending time with each other. They would spend New Year's Eve together really every year, along with their spouses, who were also very good friends.
Yeah, too bad you don't have that kind of commonality elsewhere in Washington, that's for sure. Your father was known as a real conservative who loved to argue, but he was also famously funny on the bench. Do you have a favorite memory of your father? I mean, it's funny to hear some of his comments from the past because he was really witty.
He was very funny. I can't think of any specific joke that stands out. It was just kind of his personality. He was a great joke teller and a great storyteller. He had just a great voice for it and a great memory for those sorts of things. But also his offhand comments were very funny as well. So that's one of the things I really miss about him is just that humor and getting to experience it.
And many people are calling the current Supreme Court really among the most consequential term because you've got the ideologically split justices considering a lot of diverse cases right now. Justice Neil Gorsuch has settled into his new role as a staunch conservative. Thoughts on what the court looks like today without your father and Gorsuch in that seat?
Well, you know, I love the Supreme Court. I love following it, but I frankly, and I think Justice Gorsuch is doing a wonderful job so far. But obviously, I miss my father there, that's one of the reasons I enjoyed working on this project so much. Is I got to read so many of his legal ideas again, and I don't know how he would decide on any of the cases before the court now, but with this book and working on the speech, I was kind of. It's a great way to remember what his legal philosophy was and how it might guide the court in the future.
And we want to look at that philosophy because that's a really important point. I mean, you've got now some of these cases. They're calling this court epic because now you've got things like the travel ban, immigration, voting rights, gerrymandering, which we just spoke with Judge Andrew Napolitano, cell phone privacy. Any cases today that you see that would be of particular interest to the late, great Antonin?
Well, I think obviously the masterpiece cake shop one would be of great interest to him because it involves a religious liberty issue and a gay rights issue. So I think that would be really. I don't know how he would have come out on it because I'm not a legal expert. I don't know the details of the case, but this collection includes a number of speeches about religious liberty and religious freedom. So I think there's some overlap there. But also, people forget that he was a staunch defender of rights of the accused and defendants, so that I think the search and seizure case would also be of great interest to him, and those are issues that he covers a lot in this collection.
I wonder what he would have said about cell phone privacy, given what we are looking at in terms of terrorism, law enforcement needing help getting into people's phones, and then people pushing back that, no, it's my privacy.
Yeah, hearing the judge's description of that case, I was wondering the same thing. My father had an influential. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Good to see you, Christopher. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
We have such fond
it.
remembrances of Antonin Scalia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria.